2079, and it is April 12th. Sorry. April 12th, 2028. 26. Jeez, let's start over. This is 2079 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room in El Paso, Texas on Fort Bliss. And today is April 13th, 2026. Okay. And why was he forcibly removed? To take him downstairs to the basement room, the arms room, right there on Fort Bliss, soundproof room, to take his life brutally, and then to, as evidence indicates, to harvest his organs and traffic his body, steal his body off of Fort Bliss and traffic his body over to Mexico for disposal. That, and whatever, why they're collecting bodies and whatever they're using the bodies for, because they're absolutely collecting bodies. We see that with Plenitude Crematorium, with Del Carmen. They were all collecting bodies, over 400 bodies. Why were they doing that? What were they doing with the bodies, right? And then giving people that were paying them for cremation fake, construction, ground up, pulverized construction materials, cement, and urns. Why were they doing that? So, of course, Cesar Hargi is the prosecutor over there and should be um, absolutely on his feet, looking into this. And I'm making sure that I'm on. Thank you. And we're getting a lot of feedback from what's happening in Chihuahua, Mexico. If you're an American and you don't know what Chihuahua, Mexico is, it's the state. It's the state that borders the USA, that borders um, El Paso, Texas. And you can just walk over on a bridge and go right into Chihuahua, Mexico. And that is the epicenter of all of this trafficking, of all of um, the migrants coming into the United States. There's different areas on the border, but El Paso is a major thoroughfare, is the epicenter. Okay, it is really the epicenter. And that's why all the a 10,000 bed emergency intake center for unaccompanied migrants, how minors, unaccompanied minors, children, unaccompanied. How many migrants are children? How many are unaccompanied? Um, you need to traffic half a million of them. Like, I've never seen that many unaccompanied children, right? Something is going on. Something is a reset or something, because they were being exploited. Of course, they were being exploited. And that's why this is so evil. This is so evil because, and if you want to know why um, this is important to you as an American, is because what the failure that is happening right now in Chihuahua, Mexico. And I should post up some of the pictures. They're just, you know, um, the failures that are happening right now in Chihuahua, Mexico, is, is the same people that have caused this level of failure, where candidate supporters are shot in their head right in front of their house, where you have 400 bodies being stacked up in very unsanitary, rat infested um, a house, for years, and they're rotting bodies, over 400 of them. and then you have all of the trafficking, the harm to women and children. You have major violence, right? And fuel theft, ongoing fuel theft. You have the monopoly of the fuel in that area. And now you have the killing of a member of the cattle union. It was so brutal that the cattle union president, who's running to be governor because this was a threat against his candidacy of governor for Chihuahua, who was really part of the PAN party. And the PAN party, of course, is a narco party. Chapatos faction of the Sinaloa cartel, in alliance with the Juarez cartel, in alliance with the El Paso cartel, in alliance with CJNG. CJNG just hopped right over it, right over the border cartels right into the United States, to be honest with you. And uh, so when you look at these cartels and you look at how important it is to know about them and to know what's happening in Chihuahua and what has happened in Chihuahua with not just the drug trafficking and the sex trafficking and the child trafficking and the fuel siphoning, but the embezzlement that goes with that and the money laundering that goes with that and all the pain and suffering to the people, and the targeting of crisis individuals. That's why they have all the shelters. That's why they have all the orphanages. That's why, um, uh, even in the United States, we have female military being targeted. Um, and we know that. We know that for a fact, because the same people that did this to Chihuahua, Mexico, are doing it in the United States, infiltrating in our military, infiltrating in our agencies and in our businesses, and their intentions are no good. Their intentions are very evil. Their intentions are to do harm. And when you have someone like Alejandra de la Vega, a double agent, dual citizen, that simultaneously was on Governor Abbott's in Governor Abbott's administration, and very close to his inauguration and everything, part of that, and simultaneously on the governor of Chihuahua's administration, um, involved in money because, of course, her husband is West Star Bank with Woody Hunt, and of course, border security commissions, um, because of her husband's Westar refineries, and of course Arleano's, Argo oil and gas, and her 300 um, um, of these shops, right? These convenience shops and her gas stations, and they were all under audit, right? The Argo gas stations were under audit, um, and so uh, they were uh, protecting themselves and their evil cartel scheming. Um, Absolutely. That's what the evidence shows. That's what the evidence confirms. That not only in the United States, having access to Texas databases, Texas influence, with Governor Abbott. They had influence there in Chihuahua, Mexico, und wie, my Oma would say in German, right? And how, like a huge influence on both sides. And as they got wealthier, they even had more influence. And this is the same pipeline, this is the same area. as Iran-Contra, and people need to understand that because there's brains behind this operation. The Iran-Contra's brains were the financier, Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was the financier for Khashoggi and the Iran-Contra. And the whole trial and everything was all show because it never ended. Matter of fact, it evolved. It evolved to Iran-Contra 2.0. It was all about fuel siphoning, fuel theft, uh, reselling fuel over and over again, to profit over and over again, to multiply the profits. And of course, with all of um, the drug trafficking and the sex trafficking and the child trafficking and the porn and the of course when you're dealing with all of that, you need ammunition and you need weapons. And the problem that every American needs to understand what is going on in Mexico, in Chihuahua, Mexico. The biggest problem that people need to understand is that Chihuahua, Mexico does not have a Second Amendment. They are not allowed to protect themselves with a weapon. They're not allowed to do that. They have no Second Amendment. And so they have to hire security teams, right? And these security teams have been cartel infiltrated. And people are not allowed to carry like we are in the United States. And that absolutely has caused so much violence in Chihuahua, Mexico. And, think about it. You think, really, they're not allowed to carry weapons? No, they're not allowed to carry guns. And, there's, a big group in government that don't want people to carry guns because that would end this problem. And in the United States, we need to be so grateful that we have the Second Amendment, because that is staving off the infiltration, not that it has staved off the infiltration of the cartel into our country, but it has staved off the violence. What's going on in Chihuahua is the executions, right? And I know you can say, well, that's going on in the States too. But this is like it's just so bad. And in the United States, they're staging these crime scenes. So and I can't um s- I can't even speak about this because I just want to go on and say how much violence is going on in the States also. What happened to our son is totally act of war. The brutal murder of him on a military installation that is highly secured, but that the cartel had influenced and infiltrated into our military base, making it so compromised and so dirty to the highest chain of commands that they agreed to and participated in the brutal murder of our son and the cover up, which included the stealing of his body, the organ harvesting, the trafficking of his body for disposal over to Mexico. And when we found out that they, covered it up and misdirected us and sent out their goons to harass us and threaten us, and it's the same people that are involved in the Julio Cordero shooting. Okay, it's the same goons, the same people that were in the Walmart mass shooting, right? The ones that are tied to the multiple shooters, that tied to Patrick Crucius's family, tied to it's the same people, the same goons, the same cartel connected, that are sent out to cover up, to do the dirty work for the narco philanthropists, right? The narco philanthropists, and you can really focus on Alejandra de la Vega because she is the dual citizen. She is the dual agent, swearing allegiance to Chihuahua, Mexico, at the same time swearing allegiance to the United States and Texas, to Texas Constitution, and really her loyalty was to her own self-aggrandizement, right? Because the evidence proves it. When she got so many more of her gas stations, or her empire was increased because she had influence on government permits and government land and things like this. So yeah, she's was running both sides, right? And very close to Governor Abbott, and very close to Corral and to Mauro Campos. And Mauro Campos has lost all. She's lost all credibility. I mean, when you lose the cattlemen, when you lose the ranchers, which is a huge, a I can't even explain how big that is for Chihuahua and for the United States. When you lose, you can't even protect your uh, your cattle industry. We all like to eat beef, right? We all like to eat beef. When you can't protect your cattle industry, and you have those involved getting shot in the head, and then they're canceling events with Mauro Campos when they have a long history of supporting her. And now they're like, no, she is just absolutely has lost all of our faith. She has no power anymore. She can't protect us. When someone in our group gets shot right in the head in front of their house, um, she can't protect us. Her attorney general, Cesar Hargi, is hiding out in his fancy room with thick curtains, with a TV in front of the window, because the someone might see him. Someone might see him, and he feels he's all worried and tense, and um, hiding out in that room. It really, the picture that I posted, it looks like he is he's afraid for his life. And here he is, the prosecutor. He should be out prosecuting and making Chihuahua a safer place. And so this is, of course, the same problem that we have in El Paso, because it's the same people running it. They want impotent prosecutors. They want impotent governors, compromised and impotent to be able to do nothing, to just sit and whatever in your fancy. I should put that picture up because I just think it's like, wow, so telling of him. um Here he is. I mean, is that not telling? And I think that is Bonito Juarez in the background, right? Benito Juarez in the background. And when you go up really close, his face really does look stressed. And here's the TV in front of the window. And, he's just sitting there. He's not getting any movement. You see that? He's not moving. He is absolutely worthless. He's just absolutely worthless in this situation. And he's the prosecutor, right? Along with Carlos Manuel Salas, who is a prosecutor for the North Zone. So Cesar Hargi here is the prosecutor for the state of Chihuahua. And the state of Chihuahua is large, and so they have different regions. And the North Zone is Carlos Manuel Salas, and that's important to us because of Plenitude Crematorium and our son's case. But Cesar Hargi and Carlos Manuel Salas have both tampered with our son's case, both tampered with paperwork. The evidence proves that, so confirms that. So they have been cover up agents, do nothing agents except for cover up, and they're covering up their window now because the people are sick of them, right? And you have cartel wars going on, and now they're kind of hiding out underneath Benito Juarez. What a shame. What a disgrace. What a disgrace of a man, right? Bringing that kind of dishonor to Chihuahua, Mexico. And I can say that because I was born at White Sands Missile Range. And, for many years, our family would go over to Chihuahua, Mexico. Absolutely beautiful place. But this Alejandra de la Vega, who brought in and her very selfish aims for monopolies, her total greed, right? And not for the good of, and it really is disgusting that she calls herself a philanthropist. And when she's targeting women and targeting children and targeting, her own people, and then she makes fun of them by naming the team in El Paso, the Chihuahuas. I think that's so disgusting. She's just, and the more I learn about her, the more I'm just like, oh my gosh, why isn't she in jail? Because she's a double agent. She's not loyal to Mexico. She's not loyal to the United States. And of course, she's married to Paul Foster. And all of this fuel theft, Bill, if you want to hurt people, you make fuel prices high, right? And so this fuel theft is absolutely connected to the Strait of Hormuz, is exactly connected to Iran, because this is Iran-Contra. You have to understand that it was this evil brain power of Jeffrey Epstein that created this pipeline, this greedy elite pipeline. And of course, Beto O'Rourke and his family are involved, and of course the Pritzers, and of course, the Chicago group, William Sanders, and Oprah, and Obama, and and you can go on, and they're told, and Greg Abbott, okay, and I would say Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz has had everything for a long time, and he just is sitting there like Cesar Duarte, with a big mouth, though, with a big mouth, like he can cover everything up with some pretty language or something, but you know and you see many others that are coming out now against this war in Iran. And if you're a regular citizen in Mexico and you're a regular citizen in the United States, I can see how this is all very confusing, and you're like, what does this have to do with Iran? But if you are a podcaster, commentator, especially from Texas, that has been following this closely for years and knows about Iran-Contra, knows about Jeffrey Epstein and the money laundering and the him winning the $80 million Powerball under a Zorro Trust, knows about all these things and have been following this, then, this whole strategy by President Trump is not a surprise at all. Matter of fact, it probably scares you because you might have participated or been compromised in these years. And that's why President Trump gets so much flack, right? That's why he gets so much flack, because he's over the target. He's over the target with the fuel siphoning, with Cesar Paneche. He was the attorney general before Cesar Hargi, and he was caught with his group of Carvel, um, you know, um, scheming and plotting and whatever with Maru Campos, with billions of stolen fuel, billions of barrels of stolen fuel. This, and then reselling it back to, really hurting the people. And so yeah, when you're colluding, when you're doing that kind of, caught embezzling money for Cesar Hargi. Remember Maru Campos signing that off, 400,000 for Cesar Hargi, which was taxpayers' money, which was embezzlement. I'm sure the people of Chihuahua could have used that money, right? I'm sure they could. And now they're affecting the whole cattle industry. And of course, this has gone over the border and into our military and the whole trafficking. That's why it's connected to our son's murder. Um, but when you see the cartels in alliance with Iran, with an alliance with China, and you see that the cartels have the Mormon faction leadership, which just grew, over these years. They multiple wives and multiple children. Those wives, they don't even know where they came from. When you read through the cases, the wives don't even know where they came from. They were trafficked to these areas and became multiple wives for multiple children, and all of a sudden they were Mormons, whether they liked it or not. They were Mormons, polygamous Mormons, whether they liked it or not. You know, and you got the case where they're asking the young wives, where did you come from? Where are you from? "Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Who's your family besides this family? I don't know." You know, I mean, it's just a terrible thing what happened over there. Polygamy is just no good. It's just no good. That I can't even tell you how many problems I have seen that it has caused, and so much pain to children, because it devalues the children, right? It devalues the wives, it devalues the children, it devalues the family. And but it evolved and it grew big and it grew as part of the cartel. And how do I know that? Because of the Farnsworths, the Romneys, the Wentons. I mean, everybody knows by now that they're up to no good. Connell Wetton leaked our son's identity to the cartel. That means he is the cartel. That means he is in alliance with the cartel. So yeah, I you know I just hate. That's why I say the Mormon faction. I want to say this is a small group, right? But they are embedded. They are embedded in our military, embedded in our agencies, embedded in Mexico's agencies. They cross the border. They go back and forth. They're dual citizens and double agents. That's what they are, and they don't have loyalty to their countries. their country of origin, or the country where they're living in. And so if they can deal with Iran, if they can deal with China, they will do it. Even if it hurts Mexico, even if it hurts the United States. And so if the CJNG, which are very violent flesh peddlers, human flesh eaters, they were the fuel siphoners, stillers, they, of course, drug dealers, a very sophisticated operation, because this is Iran-Contra 2.0 that evolved. It evolved over time. And so much so that they were getting drones from Iran. The drones from Iran. It is no mistake that February 10th, 11th, because for 8 hours on the night of February 10th and into February 11th, the airspace over El Paso was shut down because of drone activity, foreign drone activity. And on February 22nd, Al Mencho's the head of the CJNG, one of the heads of CJNG, was his place was raided, and they got, of course, he died in that raid. People know that he was killed in that raid, and but the ledgers were got, the ledgers and the books were got, and the log books were got. And the next thing we knew, 6 days later, President Trump was doing Operation Epic Fury into Iran. And we know there was a problem because Richard started reporting in 2018, 2019, in his 10 months there in Qatar, that his unit, which was from El Paso, Texas, right, 14380A, was deployed there and was doing things that were so bad. They were so bad. And Richard was a tough guy, he was a tough guy, great swimmer, great bowler. He loved to bowl, and great runner, and he perfect PT scores, and the distinguished honor graduate, and a black belt in karate. He was a tough guy. And him to say, and he wanted to be CID, and for him to tell us it was so bad there that he knew he made a wrong decision by joining the U.S. Army. Um, that means his whole chain of command was compromised, was in on this. And it happened in Qatar, right there, right by Iran. So something was going on with Iran, and of course, this whole pipeline that went from the Strait of Hormuz to uh, Little St. James Island, right, which was owned by Jeffrey Epstein, over to Puerto Rico, to Dominican Republic, to Haiti. We all know about the Haiti children, into Cuba, into um, um, Central America, up to Mexico, and into El Paso, Texas, right there. So that was and El Paso. Then what was the next stop? Zorro Ranch, right there. Zorro Ranch, and which was Jeffrey Epstein's ranch, and Beto O'Rourke's family ranch, right there, and Cesar Duarte's ranch as well, right there. So that was the epicenter. And in 2019, it was shut down, right? It was shut down, and Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. And even Beto O'Rourke's family ranch was shut down. Okay. So, and Cesar Duarte, I believe he was arrested then also. And then I extradited, they released him. He got off for a while. Now he's in a Mexican prison, and Mexico City, so we're told. We're told that he's in a prison in Mexico City, and his wife, the last time I heard, was in custody in the United States. And for what? Embezzlement, and I'm sure money laundering and all kinds of stuff that has to do with this. And Bertha Fong, and I know, that the Fong family owns um, um, the strip joint that is part of the group that were harassing us, where Leilani Hart was getting her mail, where Leilani Hart and James Hart had their vehicles registered. And Leilani Hart, James Hart, Dallas Hart is the prime suspect. He was Richard's platoon leader. Their cousins, the Nusas, one as a CID agent. Now he's lost his badge. He's out. The other one, Major Solomona Nusa, in mortuary operations. So if you wonder how they got Richard's body out of there, sneaked his body out, that would be the suspect. And also all of the fake paperwork, because James Hart was IDS Pablo. So he was reported by Leilani Hart, his own wife, of tampering with paperwork and exploiting his position as veterans benefits. And so if you're wondering if they cashed in on Richard's body, and why there were 3 autopsy reports, and why they the death certificate is a big issue, why his car is a big issue, why his phone's a big issue, why the cover up, why his body is over in Mexico, and we want it back. We're in the vicious negotiations for the repatriation of our son's remains. Then you can see that they had the network. They had the DES Thomas Kane, who controlled the video cameras, the surveillance, the gates on Fort Bliss. He was part of it. So you can see that they had the infrastructure, and that infrastructure is a result of this El Paso cartel. Right? When you are working for Greg Abbott, when you are working for the governor of Chihuahua, Mexico, and you're working on commissions that handle security, border security, and you're doing your word gets appointments like bringing Cesar Paneche up from Mexico City, and then colluding with Maru Campos, right? When Maru Campos was under investigation, and then bringing in, get this, Marine General John Kelly. That was even part of the White House staff. When you have the power to bring him in so that his business that supplies unaccompanied minor camps and shelters, and he's profiting big off of that, his business, but you can bring him in as a foreign agent to be a security advisor for Maru Campos. Yeah, that tells you this group is up to no good. This group is absolutely means the worst for Chihuahua, Mexico, and means the worst for the United States, and that they are already there on both sides, and that they have absolutely allowed the CJNG and the Juarez cartel to operate freely on both sides, to buy houses, to buy businesses, to have privileges, and to sell them protection. And that's really it's like the bully on the street. I run the security. You have to pay me if you want to do these businesses, and then you can operate your evil deeds with impunity. And I'm offering you protection, but you got to pay up. So all of that needs to be investigated, because that's where evidence really confirms that this is a protection racket for big money, and also for privileges for their own aggrandizement, is that the right way? But yeah, and operating on both sides of the border. And I've only touched on just a bit of what they're into, um, because they have their fingers in quite a bit to do their evil poisoning, to poison our communities, to poison our um, our states, and to poison our countries. And that goes all the way through to Central America, uh, all the way to Iran and to the Strait of Hormuz, because it has to do with oil. And of course, Paul Foster is all about oil, right? And so is Rafael Arellano Caron. He's all about oil. And they and the CJNG were all about oil siphoning and theft. And they were buying the drones from Iran, and they were being hired by Iran to be assassins. And I don't say that lightly. That is documented, that they were being hired by Iran to be assassins. So this is, Iran Contra evolved into a super 2.0, and President Trump has absolutely gotten that information, because remember, he's extradited over 100 leaders of the cartels through Central America and Mexico, and more than that, and many have died, and many have been put in prison. And he turned off the so many of the spigots, um, to, and so this is why there is a lot of gnashing of teeth. This is why there's a lot of flack against him. A lot you see when you have billionaires that are being called out, right, and being exposed. They, have teams that go on social media and start just typing away, right? Teams. And we had teams that came after us, the whole when we didn't even expect it, right? To control our son's case. We had very bad actors from both sides, um, of this whole thing. Well, I don't even know if it's both sides. I think it's one side now. I think they were working together to preserve this trafficking network, and trying to mislead us, and intimidate us, and harass us, and threaten us, and search our house without a warrant, and not give us our son's vehicle, not give us our son's phone. Um, just lie about his designation. Our lawsuits are epic, y'all. Our lawsuits are epic, and so yeah, just please share all this information, because this big, um, well, it's not as big. This network has been exposed, and President Trump has exposed it, and we've helped. We've helped with all of our investigation and with all of our filings. I do have to say that we have helped. And the main thing that we've tried to do is to let the people know in Mexico. So God bless you, Laura, for speaking Spanish and sharing this information in Spanish, um, because we want people in Mexico to know what's going on, what has happened, that it is not, um, uh, the desecration of their country by the people. This was a purpose, this was a plan, this was a cabal, this was a cartel that targeted the people of Chihuahua, Mexico. The people of Mexico. Mexico is a narco state, because of what they've done, and how it has evolved, and how they have suppressed the people of Mexico. And yeah, and the same thing with the United States. Uh, just the drugs alone, what that has done. And so when you have officials that are in, because we spend so much for security and investigation and everything. And when you have an official like Cesar Hargi sitting there, looks like he can't even get up off that chair, that he has a TV blocking the window because it looks like he's afraid for his life, and he's sitting underneath Benito Juarez. I think that's Benito Juarez right there, a portrait of him. What a disgrace. What a total disgrace. And he wants to be mayor. That's the desperate move of these double agents, right? This is the desperate move of this El Paso cartel to keep Cesar Hargi in there to cover up. And they do that in El Paso as well. That's why we have James Montoya, the 2028 stamp. That's why we had Bill Hicks, the bottom of the barrel. That's why, we have judges that are not even judges. They're all imposters because they're supposed to be elected, and they're not following the Texas Constitution, and nobody's calling them out for it because you have an El Paso cartel that's controlling. Controlling, and the CJNG that are, they're agents of evil. They're agents of evil. Right there in El Paso, right there in the United States, right there in Mexico. And of course, this is why Richard had his life taken from him. So we want to get the word out, what is going on. And, so we've been filing all the time. And at the same time, we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And so the people need to know. The people need to know what's going on. And so I'm just very, very, very appreciative when anybody shares. We don't monetize this, so you can share, and there's no ads or anything like that. I don't think there's any ads, and to get the word out. So thank you so much, everybody, and yes, thank you, Laura, and I will be back. Let me turn this off. Oh, let me show you one thing before I go, because it is so bad. And let's see what's happening. Oh, I turn that off. If you haven't had a chance, look at what they're doing. And look at what they're doing in Juarez. This is Mauro Campos, the governor now. This is a big mural of her. They are not happy because look, she's lost the trust of the cattle industry, the cattle union. It's just devastating. Absolutely devastating. The loss of faith in her. So, yeah. And so I hope that you read these articles and share them, because I just think it's so important to get the truth out, to win this battle. And I know I got a lot of flack for posting that two American destroyers went through the Strait of Hormuz, which, by all the reports I've gotten, it happened. And now they're going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz because it seems that there are mines, that people are afraid, and there's mines. And so America is going to redirect the ships to the United States because we're open for business, right? We're open for business with the oil now. President Trump has secured the oil. And I'm sure it's going to be at a portion of the price, because going through the Strait of Hormuz, you automatically have to pay like $1 million for what? I read how much they had to pay. It's just an ungodly amount of money. to Iran to go through there. So, I got a lot of hate for that, but I was just reporting the news. 2 destroyers went through the Strait of Hormuz. Whether you like that or not, I was reporting that news, and um, that seemed to really um, upset some people. It was just very interesting. Very interesting if these are paid people, of those that have oil interests, right? That have been profiting off of that strait, and are they in Texas? Are they in the United States? These people that are just so upset that their business has been exposed. Um, so yeah, it's going to be very interesting with the blockade that President Trump is doing, and see how long that lasts. Because if no tankers are going through there, and they're just going around um, South Africa, right? Um, and into the United States to get their oil. It's going to be very interesting how long that's going to last. I don't know. Um, but it all has to do with this cartel um, that has been operated, that is in connection to the beginning, the Iran Contra under Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why Jeffrey Epstein now, people have said, oh, President Trump has been avoiding Jeffrey Epstein. Probably some parts, probably some parts, but for the most part, all he's been doing is focusing on Jeffrey Epstein, because he's been destroying that pipeline that Jeffrey Epstein built. He has been absolutely destroying it, and also exposing it. So, we'll see what happens. And, our concern is the lawsuits right now, the getting our son's remains back, and getting accountability. And I think that is all looking really positive steps moving forward. So thank you for sharing. And